wellnesscouch.com, streaming wellness into your lives.
You're listening to A Quirky Journey, the healthy family podcast with your hosts Jo Whitten and Fuad Kassab.
Welcome to A Quirky Journey. Today I've got two of my favorite people, not just one, two of them.
Woohoo!
Elyse Comerford and Jo Whitten. How's it going, guys?
Good. I've got two of my favorite people too.
Yeah, me too.
Who is
Group hug.
Don't tell Dylan I said that.
We love Dylan too.
Dylan's
But
in the room.
he's here too, aren't you, Dylan?
Hi, Dylan.
Tell me what she said.
Oh,
I said hi.
I love it.
He's so
Yeah.
cute.
Yeah,
Elyse, you're in Byron at the moment. Where are you? Mullen?
yeah, I'm in Mullumbimby, so I
What's
made.
the weather like today?
It's a little bit overcast,
Okay.
but nice.
Of course
Yeah,
it is.
so we don't really get hit with the winter up here, so we're pretty lucky.
Yes.
Beautiful here today. I got clear blue skies today. Yeah.
Oh, lovely.
Amazing.
Sitting by the open door.
Yeah, it's a bit overcast here in the Blue Mountains and a little bit cold, but not too bad. I've got my daughter's birthday tomorrow, so we're hoping the weather.
And my daughter's birthday tomorrow too.
Wow,
Oh, wow,
it's a
happy
surprise for India.
birthday. Yeah.
India's not supposed to know, Joe.
She's not home.
Oh, okay,
Not home.
good.
She's at work. She's having a surprise 21st party.
Oh, that's lovely.
That's great. Elyse, there's so much to talk about. We started talking about what we're going to talk about, and we should have recorded that bit as an entirely different podcast before this. And, hey, what we've been seeing a lot as we travel around the country, or the people who are in our community, in our gut health group, there seems to be this kind of worry about doing things right in terms of getting healthy, and a feeling like all the things need to be in place for someone to actually heal. And we're just talking, when we were in Byron Bay, we were talking about how something like that is actually not going to help a person heal, and there are so many factors you have to consider. Is Dylan all right?
Yeah, he wants to say hi to you guys.
Oh, let him say hi. That's okay. He can say
Come on, Dill. Come and say hi.
Hi.
hi, Dylan.
Hello. That wasn't that bad.
How you going?
Hey, man.
Going.
What are you doing today?
You're going to go play with a friend.
And then they play with a friend.
Oh,
All right.
that's
Nice.
good.
Wow.
You have fun.
We will.
That's good.
Awesome. Dylan is Elise's 17-year-old son, by the way.
Say bye.
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 Bye, Dylan. Love it.
One more than you have one.
Okay, Dylan's going to listen.
Oh, he's going to help
All right,
too.
fantastic.
Okay.
Okay. Cool. So, should we pause until Dylan is confused?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Hey, babe. I know, Tal.
All right, so we're back. Dylan is happily sitting in his room, I assume, playing with some kind of toy, or
He's not locked in a cupboard.
he's not locked in his room. Get me out of here!
I really remember those times where you had to be constantly thinking of another activity for them.
Yeah.
It's busy. Busy time of life.
Doing some stickers.
Yeah. It's,
Okay.
all right, we're
Where
back.
were we?
So I was saying that it seems to have like this attitude of getting everything right, getting all the tests done, worrying about having all these different diseases in you, like, and the heavy metal toxicity and the parasites and all that kind of stuff. It starts getting really, really overwhelming, and people stress out so quickly, and we are seeing that it is negatively affecting their health and taking energy away from their healing journey. And we're talking about this when we saw each other in Byron, and you had a lot of practical tips and clear thinking on this topic. So we thought it would be great to just have a podcast on this and to chat about it. So this is what we're doing today. Do you want to kick us off in your top one tip, Elyse, and the area that you're seeing happening the most, causing stress for people?
Yeah, sure. And this is why I love doing podcasts with you guys, because I get excited about something and you're like, okay, let's do a podcast about it. And there's nothing better than talking about something that's really feels really pertinent to you in the moment and you're really excited about. So
Yeah.
hopefully we don't run over time on this one.
Don't worry about it.
So something that I've been chatting about to some of my clients lately is just really thinking about intro in terms of whether or not it's necessary. So I know I get a lot of people come to me that say, well, I went and saw another GAPS practitioner and they just told me to spend, a week on intro and it wasn't really important. And then I can clearly see that they did really need intro. So there are definitely so many cases where intro is such an important part of the healing process on GAPS. But I'm also seeing that there's a lot of cases where people are feeling like intro is this gold standard of something they need to do to achieve any healing. And that's something I'm just really wanting to explain to people that it isn't. So, and this is the way Dr. Natasha talks about intro as well, is that only certain people need to do intro in certain situations, and that's when it's necessary to heal and seal the gut lining in that way to get the healing that they're looking for. But full GAPS in itself is such a healing diet that we really can't look past that for people who, that have really busy families that are trying to do intro and becoming quite a big stress on their family life.
Okay, so I'll just want to clarify to the listeners who are new to the idea of GAPS and intro and full GAPS. Intro GAPS is the most strict form of GAPS. It has 6 stages. Is that 6?
Yeah.
6 stages, which then, if you've gone through all these stages, you graduate to full GAPS. If you've kind of managed to do all the stages and you've healed. And because it seems like a linear approach, it seems like you start with the earliest phase of GAPS, the earliest phase of intro, and then you move on to full GAPS. You're saying that people feel that they have to go through the whole journey, going back to the strictest form of GAPS before they find any healing. Is that what?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Okay. And I'm seeing people who will go through the stages onto full GAPS and then see some kind of regression or an issue still not healed, and there's always that talk of, okay, I've got to go back to intro, I've got to go back to stage 1. And so there seems to be this idea in all of the GAPS communities that it has to be intro. That is the only way you're going to heal. And if you don't see all the healing, you need to go back and start again, and you can't finish intro until you've seen all the healing. So that's not really the case. And the approach you take, the way you decide whether or not intro is right for you, it comes down to, first of all, the symptoms, of course, and the kinds of issues you're dealing with, but it also comes down to your family and your life. Yeah. So if trying to do intro is causing that much stress that you're going to be pushed into adrenal fatigue, then the benefits are not outweighing the risks there. So it needs to be approached in a way that is always of benefit. So that doesn't mean at times it's not going to be hard, because intro is, and there are times that people feel sick and have all these symptoms of detox that come with intro, and that's normal. But if it's causing a lot of stress on your life and on your family, then there are ways to go about it that are more beneficial to healing, where it's not causing so much stress and you're taking an approach to get that healing that isn't causing so much stress.
I'll just go with an example of something I saw in the gut health chat group that we had, the chat group for our program, where this lady was asking on behalf of a friend of hers who has eczema. She said she has severe eczema. She's been hospitalized, and she's a single mom of 2, and she's been dealing with eczema for a very long time, and she's on steroid creams, and she wants to get off the steroid creams, but every time she does, she gets an inflammation response, and the eczema gets much, much worse.
Yeah.
And her body seems to be addicted to the steroid creams.
Yeah, that's a big problem, the way the body adapts to the topical steroids. Yeah.
And she was saying, what can she do? What would heal her with the food? And I was thinking, my God, she's a single mom of 2 who's dealing with severe eczema. And I can't even begin to imagine how difficult her life is before even thinking about putting a new item in the cupboard, just like buying a new type of vegetable that she hasn't cooked with before, or even cooking. And so from there, this to say, hey, going to GAP's intro will be very, very helpful. Yeah, it definitely could be very helpful, but it's definitely not achievable for someone like that, I would imagine, and it would add a lot of stress. So then, what do you counsel people then on getting their life in order and simplifying it so that they can go on this journey a bit more easily? Is this where they start?
Absolutely. That is absolutely where they start, because that's a perfect example where GAP's intro would not be of benefit in that life when it would be causing that much more stress. And when it comes to the way our immune system responds, stress, I really think, like I've been saying it all the time now, that stress trumps all. That if there's a lot of stress, then you're not going to see the healing that you want to see. And I'm really starting to see in my practice now, and as a practitioner and as other practitioners would know, you learn, you just keep learning. And that's what I'm doing the whole time I'm practicing, is I'm continually learning every day. And I used to put more weight on intro than I do now, and that's just something I've learned in my experience as a practitioner. That
this is the figurative weight. You mean like that? You don't actually put on weight?
No.
That's just to clarify to people. Not the literal weight.
Unless you need to. The literal
I did. Yeah, I needed to.
That's right. Yeah. So just putting that importance on intro. I really truly see now that dealing with the stress first, I think that's when you start GAPs. You start GAPs when you start going, okay, how am I going to reduce some stress in my life, get out in nature more, get out in the sunshine more, bring my schedule back so I'm not busy and rushing around all the time. Yes. That's starting GAPs. That's starting to see how you can change your life and reduce that stress, so then you can have room to begin changing things in the kitchen.
And who knows which things are really helping the most. Like I know when we started intro, like you said, we also pulled right back on our schedule and stayed home and, took things out of the calendar and rested and had picnics and laid in the sun and walked every day in the sunshine and swam and, just like completely cut. And also the toxic stress, like we got rid of all the chlorine out of our water and we really cut down on any toxins in the
cleaning
home.
Products.
So it was definitely de-stressing in so many ways. So it wasn't, I always say to people, it wasn't just the food.
No.
It's a very big part of it, but it was so much more.
Yeah, and food
is sort of a commitment to your health.
Yeah. Absolutely. And food seems to be definitely the main part of the conversation when we talk about GAPs, and for really good reason. It is so important, and by having this, like opening up this conversation, I know that none of us want to kind of say, well, the food doesn't matter, because my gosh, I know it does.
Yeah, that's right.
When I see what it does. So it's so important, but it needs to be done with these other things in mind that are just as, if not more important, when it comes to how GAPS plays a role in your life. It's a protocol on a piece of paper, but it's playing a role in our lives. And when you don't want to heal on GAPS and then realize you're left with, psychological issues when it comes to food and parasites and mold, which I've experienced myself, when you get that fear around these things. So it's finding that balance. And so I guess that's why I've been heading in this direction with my practice and what I'm learning now, to kind of make sure that how I approach GAPS with my clients is really a holistic way where we're looking at the person in the context of their whole life.
Where have you seen people come to you with these areas that you've identified as, say, overly stressing, or they're worried about the wrong thing? And maybe give us some examples so that people can review their journey to see if they can identify these parts in themselves, so that you can help them steer back perhaps to a more peaceful way of being
balanced. Yeah.
Okay, so I've had some clients come to me, and most people know that I've listened to other podcasts that I'm not big on testing, but then I have clients come to me, they're like, I did a test, I know you don't like tests, but it's not that I just strictly don't like testing, it's that I don't hold it at the be all and end all, like that's how we diagnose or find out what's going on, and that I won't just treat based on the testing, but it can still be a valuable tool. So I've had clients come to me that have done testing with other practitioners, and there's been something come up in the testing that's quite clearly showing something that needs to be supplemented. But then they start supplementing that thing and one particular case I'm talking about was a child, and the mother was seeing him go downhill. And instinctively, she was thinking, this isn't right. Mm. And all I did in our session was confirm what she intuitively already knew, that even though the testing is showing that they're needing something, by just going and supplementing it and then seeing them getting worse, and it wasn't in a case of like, die off just making you worse. They were actually getting worse, and in a way they weren't coping. And then it's not the right thing to do. So that's the kind of ways that I can see that people can feel like with the best intentions that they need to push through, or they really need to push something, but it's not being of benefit if it's pushing too hard, even if we know it's something that's needed.
So what would a supplement that you're deficient in cause you problems, Elyse?
So if it's pushing you too much, basically. So this particular case, there was a clear need for glutathione, but when glutathione was supplemented, the child went really far downhill, like really, dark circles under the eyes, and they're not coping in day-to-day life. So
do you mean like it caused a really hard detox?
So it caused a really hard detox that they weren't coping with, and that's something we need to look at in the way we're approaching gaps, that if we're trying to do something that's definitely needed but they're not coping with it, so then say they're not socializing well at school, they've got a lot of anger and aggression because they're detoxing and they don't feel good, that's not a state you can leave someone in, because particularly for a child, when they're going to school, when they're around that age, they're forming friendships, they're forming how they view themselves, so how people respond to them. That's how you form, your perception of yourself, how you treat people, how they respond to you. So they're forming like their social self. So if someone's in a state of just constantly feeling unwell and then not being themselves and being aggressive or angry at school, for example, they're also forming a social view of themselves in the context of their life. So that's what we need to take into account as well in how we're approaching it. They're at school, they're learning, is that still happening as well? And in this particular case, it was where by not taking the supplement, they were actually doing really well. So there are cases where we do need to push and they're not doing so well, but without not doing well either, and we know we're making a difference. So it can be really intricate in that sense. But just in general, it's like trying to look overall at the person and thinking, am I having a positive impact here? Is it worth it? Is there another approach I could take where they would be doing better and we would still be seeing healing and probably better overall long-term healing?
Would you say for someone who's like just on the beginning of trying to figure out what to do, they're at the really overwhelmed stage, like we've often said, it's probably best to start working back gently. And I know some people are desperate, like we were with Isaac with the OCC. And so
a case where you should definitely do
jump in. Yeah. Yep. But then we jumped in, and then it became so stressful within a few days that we pulled back to full gaps for a month.
Yeah.
And we worked on reducing our schedule and doing all those other things. And and then when we went into intro, we didn't have gigantic die-offs and a terrible stressful time in that first 2 weeks. We had flu-like symptoms, but not anything major. But what I'm seeing quite often in the gut health groups, people jump in because they're desperate, and that's fair enough. and they have, like you're saying, the really vicious die-off.
Yeah.
What would you recommend in those cases?
So in those cases, first of all, I'd recommend to see a practitioner.
Yeah.
Because that's where you're going to get the best advice of someone that can look at the overall picture and go, okay, this is what I think you should do here. Because I see keeping everyone mentally coping, and when you're doing it with kids, keeping them on board about what you're doing, I think that is equally as important, if not more important. Like, you need to keep everyone on board. And there's no one else is putting a timeline on healing for you. So it's like however long it takes and however you need to do it is perfect for you and your family. So I would say work with a practitioner and to get some guidance as to what is the best approach, because there's definitely cases I say to people, I think you would see more benefit if you just push through, because in a week you would see so much resolve that
you'll be over that hard stage.
Everything would be so much better. But there are definitely situations with my clients when I say, no, I think you need to move along a bit more quickly and get closer to full gaps and get some more things in, get some things in that feel a bit more like a treat and feel a bit more exciting to keep them mentally coping and you mentally coping. That's important too. And as I just said, that no one else is putting a timeline on your healing. And the healing happens as soon as you start to make the changes. It's like it's like turning the freight train around. Like as soon as you start to pull it up, even just by bringing your schedule down and taking some stress out of your life, you're starting to pull up that freight train. And then you start to make some changes, positive changes that start to turn that freight train around and get it heading in the other direction. So it's like it doesn't have to be perfect, and it doesn't have to be these certain things you're doing to be doing gaps. It's like as soon as you start to make those changes, your whole family will be benefiting from that.
It's also hard for people to understand what the healing has done for them, because they look at themselves and they go, well, I'm still sick. And I look at myself and I know, for instance,
and myself,
I was 128 kilos, had eczema and acne, hay fever. I was just completely inflamed, and I was pre-diabetic. And I look at myself now and I go, man, I still have some health issues. Hey, like I still have body pain and stiffness in my back and neck and things like that, which is improving slowly. But why do I still have all these things? And I feel like I haven't healed. But then this was 7 years ago when I started my health journey. And if I hadn't made those changes, I would be diabetic by now. I would be so obese, I would not be able to get out of bed. I don't know where I
might have had a heart attack by now.
I might have. I have. So it's very people who are on the journey, you can't judge yourself by just where you are, but also where you would have been had you not started.
Exactly. Because before you started, you were declining. That's where we all were before we started our health journey. We were in a decline, and things were gradually getting worse. So even if you've got yourself to a point where things aren't getting worse, you've pulled up the freight train.
Yeah, that's good.
And that takes massive effort. And then it's the big push to turn it around. And like anything, it's the momentum to get it going is the hardest part. And then once it starts moving, you start getting somewhere and it gets easier. I love my analogy. So there's my freight train analogy.
That's good. That's good. I like it.
Yeah, but and I always kind of see the symptoms we're really seeing is the tip of the iceberg. And healing has to happen at such a deep level for us to see it at the tip of the iceberg. So, like, when you do see a change in how your body's feeling, to me, that's just think what's happened at a deep level for your body to now show where you can overtly see and people can notice you look different. I can see a change. I can, so much has happened at a deep biochemical level for us to see that.
Wow.
It's so encouraging when after a year you suddenly go, oh, wait, look how much I've improved, but you don't see it throughout the year. It's suddenly you go,
exactly.
A photo from a year ago and go, what?
And it's like when you see your child growing and you think, oh my gosh, they've grown so much, and you're like, oh, I hardly noticed. It's exactly that same thing. So I want this conversation for people to feel encouraged by this, not like, oh my gosh, I'm doing the wrong thing, because I think that's the part that I really want to reach people about, is that feeling like we're not doing it in the right way. And like that example you gave, Fu, of the single mom with the 2 kids, and that, you know, she's got really bad eczema and what to do about it. You know, if she does know about gaps, there's a chance she would feel like a failure because she can't do it, because she's got so much going on in her life. And that's just not how I would ever want people to feel about gaps. It's like, you just need to, you know, your life is your life, and you need to just go, this is where I am. Okay, what is the first step I can take to start heading in that direction? And I would say getting out in the sunshine would be the simplest and easiest first step.
My favorite
also,
thing.
It's just so important to recognize something about human psychology. First of all, we're living in an age now where the predominant mood is anxiety. So we're anxious people because we, of course, you know, like domesticated animals living in zoos, really, they experience anxiety and chronic illness and things like that, and we're exhibiting the same kind of symptoms of animals in captivity too. So that kind of anxiety that is overwhelming for our life will create a negativity bias, which is this negativity bias is a concept, and when things are of equal intensity in your life, the things that are more negative, like the unpleasant thoughts or the negative emotions or events, are the things that will make you feel that these things are more real in your life than the positive things as well.
Absolutely.
So we'll always be looking at the negatives in our lives rather than the positives. So we are going up against our own psychology there when it comes to healing, because we're already in a sick state. The body has become really, really unwell. Of course, with that, the emotions have come along for the ride, and maybe it started off with the emotions, and then, you know, moved down to the physical level, because they are one thing, the body and the mind.
Yeah.
And, so then, how do you take this? How do you deal with this problem when people come to you and they're not only dealing with the physical issues, but also with the anxiety around their disease? How do you walk them through that journey?
So that's something I'm still working on at the moment. It's something I'm figuring out. I'm actually enrolling in a positive psychology postgraduate degree because I've just been seeing yes, more study. Yeah, I just love it. But I'm just really seeing this is an issue, and I feel as a practitioner, I want to leave people in a positive psychological state after gaps. I don't want to do gaps and go, okay, we've healed the biochemical, but now you have all these food fears and anxiety over parasites and molds and metals and all the things that we're exposed to in our environment. And what I'm seeing is that, and I've already started just doing my own research because, of course, I'm a nerd who likes to sit and read research studies for fun, is that how we're feeling mentally has very direct correlation with our physical health. So when we're more optimistic, that is positively correlated with better mental and physical health, and even surgery outcomes and recovery times. So they've done studies which look at how positive people are and what their expectations are about their outcome of a surgery, and that those with the better expectations, that are more optimistic, and this is for the same kinds of surgery. So it's not that one person knew that their results would be better, it's for the same surgery. So that people with more optimism actually have better outcomes. And they've done this study with doctors getting surgery. So because doctors know all the risks and all the potential negative outcomes, their outcomes are actually worse than people who are optimistic. So when we're a part of these groups and we're starting to learn more about the symptoms of different conditions like MTHFR, pyrroles, parasites, toxic metals, and then start to worry about having those things, our psychology has a huge effect on our physiology. So, and how our body can then cope with those issues. So I'm really starting to see that having a positive outlook has a massive impact on our health outcomes and on our healing journey.
So then we become paranoid about everything that we read about at that stage. If we read about heavy metals, then we think we've got heavy metals because the symptoms line up. Or if we read about parasites, we think we've got parasites. Is that what you're seeing?
Yeah, and it's not to say that we don't. So I've done this myself, and I guess that's I think probably the best part about my health issues that I've had in my life. I think it's definitely led to what I do now and every part of the way I practice. That I've done it myself, that you start to go down the wormholes of every condition. And
wormholes of parasites.
Yes, the wormholes, unintended. That when you're starting to look at these things, I would start to get a bit paranoid about them, learn that I did have the issues. So it's not like you're making it up in your head that you have these issues, but then they become more of an issue because you're focused on it. So and then every kind of wormhole I've gone down, I pull back realizing GAPS covers this. Like it's covered if I just take the time and focus on the healing foods and focus on the other things that I need to do. And so I think the other things that GAPS asks you to do, like slowing down, de-stressing, looking at where you live, looking at what you're exposed to, getting out in the sunshine, the ocean, fresh air, it's really underplayed. It's like this, it's put as the secondary. It's like, get all the food right, and then if you've got time, do this stuff. I actually want to flip that. I want to say, get all this right, and then once you've got that sorted, then you're ready to do the food. And, you know, that's not the case for everyone. Like you, Joe, with Isaac, you know, we
kind of did it all at once though.
Yeah, you need to start doing something there. But I guess in the more extreme cases, people are more prepared to stop their life and go, everything needs to go on the back burner here because this is crisis. But yeah, I really feel the things that we kind of see as secondary in GAPS, they're really the most important.
But don't you see that in a lot of people's lives, they're so bound up in our culture with the busyness and like the kids have got to go to every sport and every dance class and every kid's birthday party, and you know there's just so many things on the social calendar every week, and it's kind of like, oh, but you can't pull back. How? Like, it's just, I'll be doing something bad for my kids. Like, do you get that feedback sometimes? Because I know I have seen that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, for sure. And that's what everything's in your own time, like for every person to kind of, and so I'll just always talk about the stress, talk about adrenal fatigue, talk about the stages of adrenal fatigue and what that looks like. And I think the thing that hits people the most, this hit me the most when I was suffering and have been suffering with adrenal fatigue, is that stage 3 adrenal fatigue is kind of the point at which you're getting very emotional, you're getting very tired in the afternoons, you're actually probably needing a nap by that stage throughout the day just to kind of get through the day. You know, not coping with cold. You know, for me, I'd get very shaky. So there's all these symptoms, you know, memory, all that kind of thing, all these symptoms of adrenal fatigue. And the next stage of adrenal fatigue is when you can't get out of bed. So I find when I have clients and I know they're getting to that point, I'm pretty like, I just tell them how it is because I fear for them, and I'm just like, I don't want to scare you, but this is how it is. If you keep pushing adrenal fatigue, so what's going on in adrenal fatigue is your stress hormones are turned on, you know, the tap's turned on full, and you're just pouring out, your body's totally focused on stress hormones. It's not making your sex hormone, you know, it's not focused on your hormones anymore. You start putting on weight and having all the kind of PMS issues. You know, it tells your body it's not safe to have a baby, all that kind of thing. So like your body's overly focused on the stress hormones, but it can't keep doing that. So there'll be a point at which we call burnout where you can't actually get out of bed anymore. So, you know, that's what stress looks like. That's what stress does to our body. Stress is a really important response to stressful situations, but it tells our body that our life is in danger and we can't stay in a state of chronic low-grade stress. And I think that is the biggest health issue that we face as a society is chronic low-grade stress.
And that's not just biological stress caused by parasites, toxins, all that kind of stuff. We're talking about unsustainable lifestyles here.
Yes. It's even doing a job you love, but having a very full schedule and busy. Even
being kind of driven.
Yeah, even excited, busy every day. But even that is chronic low-grade stress.
Yeah.
So, and there's And like for a lot of my clients, there's things they can't change straight away. So I give them lots of ideas to manage that. So even just doing things like some meditation, some yoga, some breathing exercises, that can be that way that we're just putting the brakes on that freight train.
Like in hunter-gatherer societies, the average work day, like it's not work as we know it, but it's about 2 hours. And this is pretty much what we do, and then the rest of it is leisure, silence, being alone, or being in community, doing things with the community. That's what we're built to do. You know,
I don't know. Exactly. I don't know about the women in the society. I think they were cooking longer than that.
And the men were going
looking after the babies.
But it wasn't work.
It wasn't like that hard.
Like taking the kids to
adrenaline rush thing,
going shopping, and then coming back, cleaning the house, doing all that kind of stuff. It didn't have these types of ways of life.
And running over the conversations in your head that you've had that day, like living in the past and the present. I mean, the past and the future, you know, where you sit there and go over a conversation with somebody and it's like, they can't hear you, you know, you already had the conversation, and we all do that.
Monkey brain.
Monkey brain. So, and back in when you're talking about the hunter-gatherer, this is something I'm getting really excited about lately. When they were working, when they're out hunting or cooking, their feet were on the earth. They were breathing fresh air. They're in the sunshine.
They were
in community. They were touching spring water. They were drinking fresh flowing spring water.
Essential oils from dawn as well.
That's right. Yeah. So, and when we're working, we're sitting in office with our
in front of
a screen, getting blue light and all this kind of EMF. So something I've been researching and getting pretty excited about is that we've always kind of thought that our energy just comes from food, but science shows us, and I love science, but I love it in a way where I know how much we don't know. And I think every good scientist appreciates and loves science for what it can show us, but also in appreciating what we don't know yet, which is much more than what we do know. But something that science has shown us about the ways that we can get energy is that, so we've always thought it was from food. You know, food is our source of calories, and what food gives us is ATP, adenosine triphosphate, which is our energy source. So anyone that studied any science will have probably heard of ATP, and basically it's like every food gets broken down, and the end result of what we want for our body to utilize as energy is ATP. But ATP gets converted to electrons, and that's how we use it. So electrons are actually our body's fuel source, our body's energy source. And science shows us that when we have our feet on the ground, the earth is transferring electrons into our body. So it's not just a woo-woo thing of, when you put your feet on the ground, you're connected to Mother Earth and you feel all this energy. There is science behind this. It's
exactly that, but it's
it is
electrons.
It is that.
Yeah, that's
but,
right.
You know, I think people feel the whole grounding thing can be more a metaphysical thing. It is a metaphysical thing, but it is actually electrons traveling from the earth into your body, and electrons are our fuel source. So we are then we're like a battery. If you get electrocuted, you know, electrical currents run through our body. We are electrical. We always talk about the biochemical, but we're electrical as well. And that's intercombined, our biochemistry and our electricity. So electrons are what charge us. That's what gives us our energy. So we can get them from the ATP that we get from, you know, breakdown of our food sources. But we can also get it from putting our feet on the earth, from sitting in the sunshine. So sunshine on our skin, that gives us electrons. So does being in the ocean, in water that's flowing like spring water, and drinking that water. It's actually different to the water we're getting out of our taps. So that also charges us with electrons, and so does movement. So movement in a way that's not draining our energy. So not going and doing, F45 every day, 5 days a week. Yeah. It's movement in a functional way, in short, powerful bursts, and always stopping when you're tired. So it's like you're not recovering quickly, you stop. So it's never pushing too hard, and that's the way we would have done it. So
I have to tell you about my new exercise regime, Elyse, and see if you approve.
Yes.
Go on, ask me what you thought. So we have a local waterfall that's our swimming pool. I don't know if I took you there, Miranda Falls.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And it's got these like cement steps that are quite long on both sides. So I'm running down the steps and around, and then up the steps on the other side, and down and around and back up the steps on the other side. And that's enough exercise for me. And then I sit by the waterfall.
Yeah. How long does it take?
Like I'm probably moving for about 10 minutes, but some of it's quite hard.
Perfect.
And I feel like I'm not killing myself, but I'm getting that movement in, and then you feel quite energized. And then I might still go for a walk in the afternoon with the dog if I have time. But
perfect.
It's for me, I can't do long, drawn out, hard exercise that makes me feel achy for days, because then I just stop. I don't do it anymore.
So we're not designed to do that. So what you're doing is perfect. It's the running after the animal when you're hunting it. It's the
sitting by the waterfall afterwards.
Yeah, exactly. Relaxing and having some you time. So that's perfect. We should be doing those short bursts of exercise. So if you like riding a push bike, then you do sprints on your bike. If you like running, you do sprints. You do sprints on the beach. If you like hill sprints, you do hill sprints. But the more strenuous, the shorter time you'll do it for, because say like I do beach sprints. So I'll just kind of, guesstimate around 50 meters, and I'll just sprint back and forth, and I'll do a sprint, and then I'll walk back and I'll recover. And as soon as it takes me like more than a minute to recover, I don't do anymore.
Yeah.
Because your body's done then.
That's what I do when I go for walks too. I do short bursts of sprinting.
Yeah. So, and if you don't feel like exercising because your body actually doesn't feel up to it, you don't do it,
Exactly.
So
you don't push it.
That kind of thing. And if you're doing things where you're, so say when I do a beach sprint, I've got my feet in the sand, so I'm getting electrons from that. I'm doing the movement that I'm getting my electrons from. I'm in the sunshine, and I'll jump in the ocean afterwards. It's like perfect.
Beautiful.
So that's I just feel like that's a really important thing that GAPS does talk about. Dr. Natasha tells us to get out in the sunshine and to, reduce toxins like EMFs. It's radiation that puts pressure on our immune systems. Getting in the sunshine, getting in the ocean, fresh air, earthing. So there's a reason for this, and I would encourage people to make that their first focus, bring that into their lives as more important than focusing on the food, which is really important. So that just shows how important this stuff is.
It's such an important first step, you're saying.
Yeah. And that I just feel like you can't be doing one without the other. That if you're doing food and not doing any of this, I feel like you're missing out on this massive part of healing.
And you know what I love about it is it brings such joy. Like when I take time out of my day and go and sit in the sun and just stare at the trees and listen to the birds, it just makes me
so much easier
happy.
when she
I know, I can just imagine.
Some days, come on, Fawad, be nice. Some days, when it's, some days I'll go and sit in the sun 5 times. And it may only be 5 or 10 minutes at a time. Sometimes it's longer, but it's just some days you're tired and you just feel like you need it.
You need it.
And Joe and I do as well now in the morning, like whenever we can manage it. Sometimes we don't. But instead of having our catch-up meeting every day on looking at a screen and, looking at the things that we need to do, we go for a walk. We put on the earphones and we go for a walk down the road, and we talk about the business stuff. So we get, things... and actually, it's a much nicer conversation, Joe. Have you noticed?
And it's it's really creative.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
and relaxed and joyful, I guess. And
then if you've got more joy and you're feeling better, your optimism about your physical and mental health is going to be better, and therefore those outcomes are going to be better. So there's like another avenue that it's feeding into the healing. Yeah. I think it's so important. Have you guys heard of Wim Hof?
Yes, I followed his work for years now.
Yeah,
I used to do ice baths and all that kind of stuff.
So Wim Hof, like, I get really excited about this. I'm just going to tell you. So we might have to spend a bit of time on Wim Hof.
Okay, go.
And everyone kind of looks at Wim Hof like he's this superhuman. And he's the first to say, no, I'm not, and anybody can do this. And I think that's amazing because anybody can do what he's doing. So those who don't know Wim Hof, he is this, they call him the Iceman.
Oh,
and
yes.
he, he's like climbed Everest in a pair of shorts and does all these amazing, incredible things where, you know, swimming in ice, you know, swimming under ice.
I can't walk down the road in a pair of shorts. Forget it.
In the Blue Mountains.
Yes,
just out of modesty more than anything.
So he's doing these incredible things with his body that scientists say is not physiologically possible. So it's not that it's they're saying that it's physiologically incredible. They're saying that it's impossible for a human body to actually be able to do this, and he's proving that it is. And he's saying that
it is possible.
Yeah, that it is possible, and that not because he's superhuman, but because he's following techniques that he doesn't even claim to be his own. He says people have been doing it for thousands of years. So he does some breathing techniques and cold water thermogenesis, which is like the ice baths and stuff that Pooh was just talking about. And so just to prove that it's not because he's superhuman, he actually got 12 guys, and over, I think it was just 4 days, he trained them in his techniques. And then after that 4 days, he took them to climb this mountain in the snow, minus 27 degrees. They had all doctors and everything with them to make sure they're all okay, and they all did it in shorts. And they all did an amazing job. And it's something that the doctors were saying is not possible because of the way our autonomic immune system will respond to that, is possible. So they've, you know, hooked Wim Hof up to all these different kind of testing machines and stuff to see what his body's doing in these situations, and putting him in, you know, ice baths and seeing what his body's doing. And they're showing that with his breathing technique, he is actually affecting his autonomic nervous system and his innate immune system. So anyone that has studied biochemistry, you know, physiology, that kind of thing, we're always taught in every textbook that our autonomic nervous system, our immune system, they are out of our conscious control, that we have no control over them, that they just do their thing. You know, our digestion, our immune response, all that kind of thing is completely out of our control, out of our conscious control. So what Wim Hof has done is proven that to not be true. That
so what's the mechanism of his work, if you want to explain that to people?
So by doing the breathing exercise that he teaches, which is like hypoxia, it's over-oxygenating. I guess people can go and have a look him up. So Wim Hof is WIM and then second word HOF. So they can look him up. There's so much stuff out there about how to do the breathing exercise. But by doing the breathing exercise, they're actually changing their biochemistry and their immune response. So those 12 guys that he took to do that mountain climb in the minus 27 degrees, they volunteered to do a study in a hospital where they were injected with a bacterial endotoxin.
Don't do this at home, guys.
Sorry?
Don't do this at home.
Don't do this at home, yes. That's right. So they were voluntary, healthy individuals that had just very short-term introduction to his methods. It's not something they trained in a long time. It was only 4 days. He just taught them the methods. And so they did the breathing exercise before being injected with this bacterial endotoxin. And this bacterial endotoxin, what that would normally cause is severe nausea, headaches, and uncontrollable shaking and muscle cramps and aches and things like that. And so they did have a control group. So hats off to the control group, because they were just being injected with it, knowing full well that they would have all the symptoms.
It goes against the do no harm concept in medicine.
Yeah. They were volunteers. I guess they were they were open to they wanted to see the results. They were dedicated to the process. So what they found was that when these guys were injected with the bacterial endotoxin, before they were injected with it, when they're doing their breathing exercises, they saw a distinct increase in their epinephrine. So epinephrine, that's a fancy word for adrenaline. And that is like the first step of our immune response, the norepinephrine and epinephrine. That's like launches our leukocytes and things like that, and starts to get our immune response happening. So just by doing the breathing exercise, we're seeing a raise in the epinephrine response, which is a really good sign. And it was seeing an increase.
Stress hormone? Like, I don't understand how that's good if that goes up.
So that's where stress is good. We do need stress in our body. Stress does launch our immune response, but in chronic stress, we're launching an immune response that we don't need.
Okay.
So in this case, there was a stressor, which was the bacterial endotoxin. So a stress response was elicited. That's life-saving.
But sorry, this happened before the bacteria was introduced.
So by doing the breathing exercise, they were raising the adrenaline to then cope with the stress. And
so then when the stress was introduced, the adrenaline was already peaking or something like that.
Yeah, so that the immune response could be elicited. So and then there was also an increase in anti-inflammatory cytokines. So cytokines are just something that's launching our immune system. So the anti-inflammatory ones were also raised as well. And then there was a decrease in the pro-inflammatory cytokine production and a decrease in symptoms.
Why is that important? And why is that important, the cytokine?
Okay, so I get really excited about the whole pro-inflammatory cytokines thing. I know a lot of you probably don't get excited when you hear that. The reason that's so exciting is because pro-inflammatory cytokines, they're central to all immune diseases. So everyone, all autoimmune diseases. So everyone with an autoimmune disease has their body is pro-inflammatory cytokines when it doesn't need to. So it's not responding to a stress. It's just producing them and attacking the body. So that's what's happening in autoimmune diseases, these pro-inflammatory cytokines. And by doing this Wim Hof method, there was a decrease in those. So a decrease in inflammation in the body. And so this all led to them not having the symptoms. So this it's groundbreaking, this research, and I don't know why everyone isn't talking about it.
It's free.
It is free. It's free. It's groundbreaking. It's like they are impacting their autonomic, their innate immune response. Wow. And what are a lot of people who are doing GAPS suffering with? They're suffering with viral, bacterial, parasitic infections, and now we know that we can actually impact the way our body is responding to those, so that you can
through breathing you can
and I guess I won't give an example of the breathing right now, but you can look at how to do it, and it's basically just kind of like hyperventilating the way he does it, but you do need to, go watch.
So is this why your body naturally hyperventilates when you're going through stress, do you think? Is this like your body trying to do this?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. But it's so incredible. And so, so these guys have just proven that I'm just going to keep repeating it because I'm just so excited.
Well, I'm curious about so this guy, Wim Hof, how he does the freezing cold stuff. So he breathes first or during?
So during. So it's like you can then get your body to withstand the cold. And he does this to groups of people that are freaking out about getting in the cold, and they do the breathing exercise and then they can get in the cold with no problem. And basically the kind of what getting in the cold, the whole cold water thermogenesis does, that helps our immune system. It makes us
shocks it or something.
Yeah, well, it kind of strengthens it. And it makes us burn the white fat and build more brown fat. So if you've heard of kind of the white fat, brown fat being the brown fat's what babies have, that's the really healthy stuff. So being in that cold water thermogenesis helps all that. Really helps our immune system. So, but it's the breathing that is really having an impact. Like, it's what was used in that study.
So would you say that this breathing is helpful for people with anxiety?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely.
It's always good for people with anxiety.
Yeah, well, we were talking about with Becky the other day about the importance of deep breathing for anxiety. But this isn't exactly deep breathing. This is a bit different.
Yeah, it is a little bit different, but it would definitely help.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, I just think that's so exciting because what we're dealing with a lot of the time in GAPS is stuff to do with, it's to do with our immune system, it's to do with autoimmunity. It's everyone in GAPS is dealing with that, even if you don't know that you have an autoimmune condition. It's kind of what underlies GAPS. Everyone's kind of got something autoimmune going on. So we can bring down inflammation and increase our anti-inflammatory response just by doing something like this Wim Hof breathing method. And that's exciting because that could be the first step someone takes to know that. And when with the cold water thermogenesis, it can just be, you can start with just putting your face into a bowl of cold water with a bit of ice. And
cold showers,
Yeah, and cold showers. So, you know, cold showers could kind of be the next step if, Okay, Dylan. All right. Yeah, Dylan's just filling me in on the termite guy that's out front checking out now. So for some people, they don't want to go jump straight in a cold shower. So you could just start with face in a bowl of cold water. And that could be kind of, you know, working with it. But I do encourage people to go and look at the Wim Hof method because he teaches to do the breathing and the cold water immersion. But, so I think that's huge. And
it's actually not as bad as people think it is.
No, it's not. So I've been doing it lately as well. And it's when you do the breathing first, it just changes the way your body responds to it. And it's incredible what our body does.
I'm going to try that.
Can you find cold water up there?
Hey, we get frost up here. Not at the moment.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I remember last retreat it was.
Yeah, we got a bit cold, didn't we?
Yeah.
One day, what was it?
If I jump in the waterfall, then I will freeze. So I'll try this before I had. For most of the year, I don't swim here unless it's Lake Eacham because that's warm. But the waterfalls are just so cold, I can't bear it. So I'm going to try this. So have a look. Watch how he does the kind of breathing. You do the breathing first, and then you get in the water, and you'll feel amazing. So you'll get all those electrons. So it's incredible. I think
the early step is after you have your shower, turn off the hot water.
I've done that plenty of times, but that's an easier step for sure.
Yeah, so I was doing cold water thermogenesis as a teenager and didn't even really know why. But I was doing it because my skin was so bad that I thought that maybe standing under cold showers would make it better.
Was it eczema, you mean?
No, acne. So acne, I thought that it would close the pores and maybe I wouldn't get so much acne. So it'd be the middle of winter. I don't even think my mum knows I used to do this. She'll listen to this podcast and now she'll know. Even in the middle of winter in Sydney, I would get for school and I'd have a freezing cold shower.
Oh, you poor thing.
Completely cold, no hot, because I thought it would close my pores and that I wouldn't get acne might get better.
Well, I used to do it as a teenager, but just after I'd had my shower, I'd have the freezing cold shower because apparently it makes your hair shiny because it closes the pores.
Yeah, the things we do.
I know.
Yeah. So I hope that like this kind of leaves people feeling encouraged because
it does.
I think when the food can feel hard and when you feel like you're not getting it all right, or if you're doing everything with the food and you feel like you're not getting anywhere, there is so many other things we can be doing that have a massive impact on our health. And I think because food goes in your body, it seems to feel like the most important. But there's things we can do and they're free.
And they bring joy.
Exactly, which has massive on your health.
Yeah. Fuad and I have been talking a bit about this with the food side of things as well, that people get so caught up in the rules and you hear this, but it's not GAPS legal and all this kind of stuff, and fair enough. You sometimes have to be really strict.
The GAPS police.
I wondered what that noise
Sir, I see you are having a sweet potato.
You ate a rice cracker. But, we get so caught up in these rules and regulations and it becomes so overwhelming. And then when you go to have something that's a treat, even if it's nourishing, you feel guilty and you shouldn't. Like, you should be able to have a nourishing, delicious whole food treat and enjoy it. And it should bring joy, not guilt.
And I think, I think we laugh about this because we've all been there.
Yeah.
And I have been there. It's funny when you say sweet potato. I had like this incredible fear of sweet potatoes.
No.
And there's good reason why we all get like that, because when you know food was causing you such an issue and then you change it and you see how much you get better, of course there's this incredible fear of, that could make me really sick.
What if I go backwards?
Oh, yeah. And for some people, just even full gaps food could make them really, really sick. So there's good reason why the fear's there, but that's just something I want to work on with people. That seeing what else is really important and how we can help our body to better cope. So by doing these kind of things, by the things we talked about, like reducing the EMS, earthing, sunshine, ocean, movement, breathing, the Wim Hof method, that there are other ways besides food that have a massive impact on how our body can then cope with things, so that whilst we're doing gaps, our body's in the best position to get the most healing.
Absolutely.
So can you...
Not eating is better as well. Well, that's just my experience.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Fasting is a big part of my healing journey, but it's not for everybody. And when I fast and I'm out, I feel really wonderful after a few days of fasting and being in nature. That's just one of the best things that kickstarts me again after, feeling if I'm going downhill a bit. That really, really helps me a lot.
Yeah, and for people that are suffering with fatigue, like chronic fatigue, it's where the mitochondria, which is the energy center of the cells, just aren't functioning very well. Fasting gives those mitochondria the best opportunity to, stop treading water and to kind of get ahead. So, fasting really is good for that. So, but again, I'd encourage people to talk to a practitioner before they start looking.
Isn't it interesting, though, how our bodies tell us to do all these things? Our bodies tell us to do this, and if we're really tuned in and listening and not just so busy in life that we don't listen to our bodies, we start to do this. Like, for instance, when I get really stressed, one of the things I'll want to do is sit in the sunshine, another is sleep, and another is get out and exercise, that fast bursts of exercise, even if it's gardening or a massive clean up in the kitchen or a big walk or something like that. And it's all the sorts of things that you've been talking about that help with stress, and that's just a natural response in my body.
Yeah, because you're getting those stress hormones and your body wants to use them.
Yeah, but Joe, don't forget, you're a bit more tuned into your body than you've been before, in the past. So now you recognize the signals when they do this or do that. You know what your body's trying to tell you.
But that's what I've always done, though, when I've felt stressed. I've always done those three things.
It hasn't been like that for me. So I've only, in the past few years of really tuning back into my body have I started understanding when my body tells me, you've got to be outside, you've got to be in the sunshine. I didn't know before. The signal would come. I didn't know what it asked me to do because it wasn't part of my life.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's important for those of you out there to start, doing these steps.
Making it a part of your life.
Nature, and then you'll start understanding that what the request is. The request is saying, go swim in something cold or go get some sunshine, get some fresh air, do this, move your body, sweat a little bit. Once you start doing that, your body will start informing you again because there'll be a clear language of something you have experience with.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Is Elyse still there?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
She's so quiet.
Maybe we'll. There's a lot more to talk about, so we'll probably leave it for another podcast. We'll do another one soon and continue.
Yeah.
It's really great.
Yes, I know you guys don't keep me away for very long.
Well, we better not keep you away from Dylan for too long because he's waiting to play.
Yes, he is. But before I go, can I tell everyone about a few things I've got going on?
Please do.
Thank you. So I am starting up some group coaching, and this is pretty exciting because I want to try and take that whole building a community aspect and do that with some working with a group of clients together, so a group of families together. So taking on 5 families, and we've got applications open for that. I was going to try and start it next Monday, but it's not going to happen. Because of
because you'll be sitting in the sunshine right there.
Yes, exactly, and with retreat and everything. And I've just moved house, and so there's been a lot going on. So we've still got the applications open for that. So we're just taking 5 families, and we're making sure they're a good fit for doing the group coaching. So if anyone's interested in that, they can head over to ElyseComerford.com. And then I've got in the work with me section. And we've also got a GAPS camping trip coming up
Oh, I want to go to that.
Super exciting. Always invited. Please come. So the October school holidays and
such a good idea.
And everything, all the dates and everything are on the website as well in the Work With Me section under GAPS camping trip.
Do you want to explain a little bit about how that works?
We're holding it in Ballina, South Ballina, at a campsite there. And the way we're doing it is we're just kind of like, we're booking out the campsite and going, okay, everyone can just book their own site. And bring all their own food and bring all their own cooking equipment, bring their tent, bring their family. So just like you were going on your own camping trip, but I'm going to be there, and my colleague Stephanie Meads, who's another fantastic GAPS practitioner, she's going to be there as well, and we'll be supporting everyone doing intro. So we haven't yet decided. We're just going to see with the applications we get whether we'll all be starting stage 1 together, or just at any point on intro, wherever's right for the families that are there, which I think is probably more what we'll do. And we want to be teaching those principles. So the sunshine, the nature, the grounding, not being exposed to EMFs and that kind of thing. So there'll be a lot of that involved. We'll also be doing all of the cooking stuff. So we'll be running talks, different talks on different points in GAPS. We'll be doing cooking demos. So basically we're there to support these families as they're doing intro with their families. And by doing that, we're building that community. There's going to be these connections made, all these kids that are all doing it together. Our kids will all be there who have all done GAPS. So that, one of the things when you do GAPS is it's so lonely, and you feel like you're the only person doing it. So, we're doing it in this way to kind of build that, we're all in it together as we do, and it's a 7-day trip. And the way I got the idea for that was a friend of mine really needs to do GAPS with their son, so we went camping, and my son and I did intro with them again to help them do it, and it was so much easier. And just that feeling of we're in it together, and the kids coped with it so much better. It was a really good experience, and we were in nature, and we were going for walks, and we were going swimming, and it was
You're away from all the things that would usually stop you from doing.
Yeah, and I've done intro lots of times now in lots of ways, and that is the best experience I've had with it. And so that as soon as we did it, I was like, you'll need to do GAPS camping trips. And another really important factor in it is that we're keeping it cost effective by having people bring all their own cooking stuff, responsible for making their own food and buying, and we'll help everyone source everything. So we'll be telling people where in the local area they can get everything. We can, go on shopping trips together and kind of make sure everyone's got everything and know what they need to bring and everything like that. But yeah, the idea is that we're keeping it cost effective. So it's on the website under Work With Me. You'll find GAPS camping trip, and you can find out more info. And we're taking just applications, and then we're calling people and finding the families that are most suited to come along on the camping trip. So we're just taking 8 families on that trip.
Really great idea.
How many have you had a lot signed up? Is the 8 spots still available now? So
we haven't filled any spots yet because we've just been taking all the applications, and then we're going to start filling spots. So we haven't confirmed anybody yet, but we've had lots of applications, but we're still taking more because we want to find families that are best suited to kind of be doing GAPS in that kind of environment. So people that need much more like real one-on-one support with big issues, they're probably not best suited to come on a camping trip. So we're just finding the families that are most suited to do GAPS with us in that way, so that we can kind of, work with those families. So it's pretty exciting.
It's really good. I love it.
Becky actually told Dr. Natasha about it, and Dr. Natasha is really excited and thinks it's wonderful. So that was really exciting.
That's cool. Maybe she'll turn up.
Amazing.
Send her an invite.
I'll send her an invite. So I think it'll be something that we're going to be doing again and again, because I think it's really needed, and I think it's
definitely
what people have been asking for.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. We'll put links to your website in the show notes, and we'll have you again soon to continue this conversation, I'm sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Elyse.
Thank you. Love talking to you guys.
Yeah, you too.
Yeah, I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, see ya.
Bye.
This has been a production of TheWellnessCouch.com. Check us out on Facebook and join in the conversation on Facebook.com/The Wellness Couch. Subscribe to each show on iTunes and check us out on Twitter. The Wellness Couch, streaming wellness into your lives. Whilst the Wellness Couch presenter endeavor to provide accurate and helpful information to their listeners, these podcasts cannot take into account individual circumstances and are not intended to be a substitute for health and medical advice from a qualified health professional. You should always seek the advice of a qualified health professional before acting on any of the information provided by any of the Wellness Couch podcasts.